Introduction to the conflict. In the year 2257, a galaxy teetering on the brink of chaos bore witness to an escalating conflict between two formidable powers: humanity, represented by the vast Dominion, and the ambitious Zorgan Empire. The stars shimmered with potential, yet beneath their beauty lay a simmering tension that threatened to erupt into all-out war. The Zorgan Empire had always been envious of humanity's rapid advancements. Their ships, sleek and menacing, were a stark contrast to the more robust designs favored by human engineers. Emperor Karax, a figurehead draped in arrogance and ambition, sat upon his throne surrounded by advisors who echoed his sentiments of superiority over what they deemed upstart humans. For too long, they had watched from the shadows as humanity expanded its reach across star systems, establishing colonies that thrived while Zorgan worlds languished under neglect. "Enough is enough," Karax growled, his claws digging into the armrests of his throne as he surveyed his assembled generals. "We will show them that we are not to be trifled with. We will take what is rightfully ours." Meanwhile, aboard the flagship HD's Indomitable, Captain Marcus Novak stood resolute on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the starfield beyond. He was a seasoned leader, having navigated countless battles against various foes. His crew respected him not just for his tactical acumen, but also for his unwavering commitment to protecting humanity from threats both external and internal. As alarms blared suddenly throughout the ship, Novak's heart raced. "Report," he barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Captain," Lieutenant Zhang responded, her fingers flying over her console. "Sensors have detected a massive Zorgan fleet amassing at our border. They're preparing for an incursion." The weight of those words hung heavy in the air. A fleet this size could spell disaster for millions of lives if left unchecked. Novak felt a surge of adrenaline course through him. He knew he had to act swiftly. "Prepare for battle stations," he ordered firmly. "We cannot allow them to breach our defenses." As his crew scrambled into action, Novak's mind raced with strategies and contingencies. He had trained for this moment but never truly believed it would come so soon. The Zorgan Empire was known for its relentless ambition, but also its impulsiveness, a trait that could either be their greatest weakness or their most dangerous asset. Across enemy lines, Emperor Karax reveled in anticipation as he watched his fleet gather strength. He envisioned victory, the destruction of human pride, and felt a sense of vindication wash over him. "Prepare to launch," he commanded with a fierce glint in his eye. "Today we reclaim our place as rulers of this galaxy." As both sides prepared for inevitable conflict, tensions ran high in every corner of their respective fleets. The fate of countless lives hung precariously in balance as they stood on the precipice of war, a war that would test not only their technology, but also their resolve and spirit. In this moment before chaos erupted, both leaders were unaware that their choices would lead to consequences far beyond their comprehension. Consequences that would shape not only their destinies, but also that of countless generations to come. The stage was set. All that remained was for fate to unfold its hand in this cosmic game where pride could cost them everything they held dear. As Captain Novak took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead, he couldn't shake off a nagging feeling, a premonition that this conflict would be unlike any other he had faced before. With no turning back now, both fleets surged forward into darkness, each driven by ambition, but bound by destiny, ready to clash amidst the stars in a battle that would echo through time itself. The first encounter. The void of space was a silent witness to the unfolding chaos as the Zorgan fleet advanced toward the heart of human territory. Captain Marcus Novak, aboard the HD's Indomitable, felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him like a physical force. The alarms blared relentlessly, a cacophony of warnings that echoed through the ship's corridors. Every crew member was at their station, their faces set with determination, ready to face the impending storm. "Captain, we're detecting multiple Zorgan ships entering our sensor range," Lieutenant Zhang reported, her fingers flying over the console as she monitored the incoming fleet. The holographic display flickered, showing a mass of sleek black vessels gliding through the darkness like a swarm of predatory insects. "How many?" Novak asked, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Preliminary scans indicate at least 50 warships, heavily armed and closing in fast," Jang replied, her brow furrowing in concentration. "They're targeting us." Novik's heart raced. The odds were against them. They were outnumbered and outgunned. But he had one advantage: his crew. They were not just soldiers. They were a family forged in the fires of countless battles. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. "All hands, battle stations," Novak commanded. "Prepare for immediate engagement. Helm, plot and intercept course." As the ship surged forward, Novak could feel the familiar rush of battle adrenaline flooding his senses. The Zorgan ships were sleek and menacing, each one designed for speed and firepower. He knew their tactics, aggressive and relentless. They would come at them with everything they had. The first volley of Zorgan weapons fire erupted from the enemy fleet, streaking toward the Indomitable like deadly comets. Novik's instincts kicked in as he barked orders to his crew. "Raise shields. Return fire," he shouted. The Indomitable shuddered as it absorbed the impact of enemy fire. The ship's shields flickered but held firm under the barrage. Novik's fingers danced over his control console as he directed their weapons systems toward the approaching threat. "Fire at will," he commanded. The ship's advanced lasers and missiles responded with precision, cutting through space and finding their marks among the Zorgan fleet. Explosions blossomed in the darkness as human weaponry tore into Zorgan hulls, sending debris spiraling into the void. But for every Zorgan ship that fell, 2 more took its place. The relentless tide of enemy vessels pressed forward, determined to crush this human resistance once and for all. "Captain, we're sustaining heavy damage," Lieutenant Jang shouted over the din of alarms blaring throughout the bridge. "Shields are holding at 30%. Novik gritted his teeth, frustration mounting within him. They needed to change tactics. Fast. "Helm, plot a course through their formation. We'll hit them where it hurts." The young helmsman nodded sharply and adjusted their trajectory. The Indomitable surged forward into the heart of the Zorgan fleet, weaving through enemy fire with calculated precision. The crew fought with renewed vigor as they engaged in close-quarters combat with Zorgan vessels. "Target their command ship," Novik ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "If we take out their leader, we can disrupt their coordination." The Indomitable's weapons systems locked onto a massive Zorgan warship, the Z's Devastator, its imposing silhouette dominating the battlefield. As they closed in on their target, Novik felt a surge of hope. This was their chance to turn the tide. Just as they prepared to unleash another barrage on the enemy flagship, disaster struck. The concentrated volley from multiple Zorgan ships slammed into their port side, causing alarms to blare even louder than before. "Captain, we've lost power to our starboard thrusters," Jang exclaimed, panic creeping into her voice. "Stabilize our course," Novak shouted back, gripping his command chair tightly as he fought to maintain control of his ship amidst the chaos. The Indomitable spun slightly but remained on target as its weapons unleashed hell upon the Z's Devastator. Bright beams of energy lanced through space, striking true against their foe. Explosions erupted across its hull as human firepower began to take its toll. But even as they pressed forward with renewed determination, Novik knew that time was running out. Their shields were failing. They couldn't sustain this level of engagement much longer without reinforcements. As if answering his silent plea for help, a transmission crackled through the comm system. A voice filled with authority and urgency broke through the static. "Captain Novak, this is Admiral Alina Petrovic aboard HD's Retribution. We're en route to your position." Relief washed over him like a tidal wave. He wasn't alone in this fight after all. "Admiral Petrovic, we could use your help now more than ever." The battle raged on around them as they fought valiantly against overwhelming odds. With each passing moment, more Zorgan ships joined the fray, an unrelenting wave of destruction, intent on claiming victory over humanity. Just then, an explosion rocked the Indomitable as another volley struck home. Sparks flew from consoles around them. Crew members struggled to maintain control amidst chaos. "Captain, shields are down to 10%. Zhang shouted desperately. Novik's mind raced. He had to make a choice, a decision that could cost them everything or save them from annihilation. He glanced at his crew. Fear mingled with determination in their eyes. They were ready to fight until their last breath. "Initiate self-destruct sequence," he commanded suddenly. Gasps echoed around him as shock registered on every face aboard his ship. "Captain, are you sure?" Singh asked incredulously. "We can't let them capture us," Novik replied grimly. "We'll take as many of those bastards with us as we can." With heavy hearts but resolute spirits, his crew initiated the countdown sequence, 5 minutes until total annihilation for both themselves and any Zorgan ships within range. As panic spread among enemy ranks realizing what was about to happen, Zorgan warriors scrambled aboard their ships in an attempt to board before it was too late. But it was too late for them now. Suddenly, the void lit up with blinding flashes. The HD's retribution emerged from hyperspace like an avenging angel. A massive human Dominion fleet led by Admiral Petrovic herself. "We've got your back," she shouted over comms just before unleashing a devastating barrage upon unsuspecting Zorgan vessels caught off guard by this unexpected arrival. Explosions erupted across enemy lines as human forces surged forward, turning what had been a desperate struggle into an all-out rout against an unprepared foe. In those final moments before detonation, Captain Novak watched in awe as Admiral Petrovic rallied her forces, turning defeat into victory before his very eyes. As time ticked away, the countdown reached its final seconds. The Indomitable stood defiant amidst chaos, a testament to human resilience, even against insurmountable odds. And then, the universe erupted in light, a cataclysmic explosion that shattered space itself, a fitting end for those who dared challenge humanity's resolve. In that moment, amidst destruction and chaos, a new chapter began, a tale woven by fate where pride would pay dearly for defiance, a lesson learned too late by those who sought conquest over coexistence, desperation, and sacrifice. The aftermath of the battle left Captain Marcus Novik and his crew in a state of disbelief. The HD's Indomitable, once a proud symbol of human resilience, lay in ruins, its hull scared and battered. The Zorgan fleet had been decimated, but the cost had been high. As they regrouped aboard the HD's Retribution, the flagship of the human Dominion fleet, the weight of their losses hung heavy in the air. Admiral Elena Petrovic stood on the bridge, her expression a mixture of relief and sorrow. The sight of Zorgan warships drifting lifelessly through space was a grim reminder of the price of victory. "We've won this battle," she said, her voice steady but laced with fatigue. "But we must remain vigilant. The Zorgan Empire will not take this defeat lightly." Novak nodded, his mind racing with thoughts of his fallen comrades. The crew of the Indomitable had fought valiantly, and their sacrifice would not be forgotten. "What's our next move, Admiral?" he asked, determined to focus on the future. Petrovic turned to face him, her eyes sharp with purpose. "We need to capitalize on this victory. The Zorgan are regrouping. They'll be back with a vengeance. We must strike before they can recover." As they plotted their next course of action, Novak couldn't shake the feeling that they were entering dangerous territory. The Zorgan Empire was known for its unpredictability, and he feared that their next move would be even more devastating. Days passed as the human forces prepared for what lay ahead. Intelligence reports indicated that Emperor Karox was rallying his remaining ships and resources for a counteroffensive. The Zorgan were not merely wounded, they were enraged. On board the Retribution, Novik convened a meeting with his senior officers in the war room. Holographic displays flickered to life, showcasing recent intelligence gathered from Zorgan territories. "We've identified a critical weakness in their supply lines," he explained, pointing to a series of highlighted routes on the map. "If we can disrupt their logistics, we can cripple their ability to wage war effectively." Lieutenant Commander Singh leaned forward, his brow furrowed in concentration. "What's our plan? A strike team? Sabotage?" "Exactly," Novak replied, his voice firm. "We'll deploy a strike force deep into Zorgan territory to target their main supply hub. This is our chance to hit them where it hurts." The officers exchanged glances filled with determination. They understood the risks involved but also recognized the necessity of this mission. They were fighting for survival, not just for themselves, but for every human life threatened by Zorgan aggression. As preparations began, Novak felt a sense of urgency settle over him. Time was not on their side. Every moment spent waiting gave the Zorgan more opportunity to regroup and retaliate. The strike force was assembled, a hand-picked squadron of elite ships equipped with advanced cloaking technology designed to penetrate deep into enemy lines undetected. As they launched from the Retribution, Novak felt a mix of anxiety and resolve wash over him. Navigating through treacherous asteroid fields and avoiding roving patrols was no easy feat, but Novak's crew executed their maneuvers flawlessly. They moved like shadows through space, silent and deadly, until they reached the outskirts of the heavily fortified Zorgan industrial complex. "Prepare for decloaking," Novak ordered as they approached their target. The tension aboard his ship was palpable. Every crew member understood what was at stake. As they decloaked within striking distance of the reactor core that powered the Zorgan war machine, alarms blared throughout the enemy facility. The element of surprise was theirs for now. "Engage," Novak shouted. The battle erupted in an instant, a chaotic clash between human ingenuity and Zorgan desperation. The defenders fought fiercely, their backs against the wall as they scrambled to repel the intruders. Novak led from the front, plasma rifle in hand, as he charged into combat alongside his crew. They fought with relentless determination, pushing through waves of Zorgan warriors who were desperate to protect their home turf. "Move forward. We need to reach that reactor core," he yelled over the din of battle. The human strike force pressed on despite heavy resistance. Each step forward came at a cost as Zorgan defenders fell around them in brutal close-quarters combat. Novak's heart raced as he witnessed both courage and sacrifice among his crew, their bravery shining bright even in the face of overwhelming odds. Just as they reached the reactor core chamber, a massive room filled with humming machinery, an explosion rocked the facility from behind them. Debris rained down as Novak shouted for his team to take cover. "We have to destroy it now," he urged, adrenaline coursing through him as he activated explosives designed for maximum impact. With seconds ticking away, they set charges around the reactor core while fending off relentless Zorgan attacks. The defenders were fierce but disorganized. Perhaps sensing defeat looming on the horizon fueled their desperation. "Charge set. We need to get out now," one officer shouted as they prepared to retreat. But just as they turned to flee, another explosion rocked the complex, this one closer than before, sending shockwaves through the chamber and throwing them off balance. "Fall back! Fall back!" Novak ordered urgently as chaos erupted around them. They raced against time through crumbling corridors, filled with smoke and debris, dodging falling structures while fighting off any remaining Zorgan defenders who refused to yield ground easily. Finally reaching their ships just moments before detonation, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. They barely made it out alive as an earth-shattering explosion consumed everything behind them. The shockwave sent them tumbling through space, but propelled by victory, the heart of Zorgan's war machine lay in ruins. As Captain Novak and his victorious strike force returned to join Admiral Petrovic's fleet, now bolstered by their success, they were met with cheers from fellow crew members celebrating this hard-fought triumph against all odds. But even amidst celebration, a shadow loomed over them. The knowledge that this battle was just one step in an ongoing conflict against an enemy who would stop at nothing until victory was theirs or death claimed them all. Back in Zorgan space, Emperor Kerox seethed with rage, his plans shattered once again by humanity's audacity. He had underestimated them before, and vowed never to make such a mistake again. Gathering what remained of his forces, he plotted revenge, a counteroffensive that would unleash chaos upon human worlds. A reckoning awaited those who dared defy him. As news spread across both empires, the stage was set for an inevitable clash, a final showdown where desperation would meet sacrifice, and only one side would emerge victorious: retaliation and strategy. The once mighty Zorgan ships were no longer the imposing force they had once been. The remnants of their fleet drifted aimlessly through space, their hulls riddled with damage, a testament to the ferocity of the human counteroffensive. Captain Marcus Novak, aboard the HD's Retribution, felt a mix of triumph and foreboding as he surveyed the battlefield. Although they had achieved a significant victory, he knew this was far from over. Admiral Elena Petrovic stood beside him, her brow furrowed in concentration as she analyzed the tactical displays on the bridge. "We've dealt them a heavy blow, but we can't afford to underestimate them," she said, her voice steady. "They will regroup and retaliate. We need to prepare for their next move." Novak nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. The Zorgan Empire had proven itself to be resilient, and their thirst for revenge would only fuel their efforts. "What's our strategy moving forward?" he asked. Petrovic turned to face him, her eyes sharp with determination. "We need to consolidate our forces and fortify our defenses along the border. I want every ship ready for a potential Zorgan counterattack. We'll also need to gather intelligence on their movements, find out where they're regrouping." As the crew of the Retribution sprang into action, Novak felt a sense of urgency wash over him. They had won a battle, but the war was far from over. He gathered his senior officers in the war room to discuss their next steps. "Listen up," Novak began, his voice firm. "The Zorgan will not take this defeat lightly. We need to anticipate their moves and be ready for anything." He gestured to the holographic display that flickered to life in front of them, showing the current positions of both human and Zorgan fleets. "We've identified several key locations where the Zorgan might regroup," Lieutenant Commander Singh reported, pointing to various points on the map. "These supply depots are critical for their operations. If we can disrupt them further, we can weaken their ability to respond." "Agreed," Petrovic said, her expression grave. "But we must also consider that they may have hidden assets we're not aware of. We need reconnaissance before making any bold moves." Novak leaned forward, his mind racing with possibilities. "What if we send a small team to infiltrate one of their supply depots? If we can gather intelligence on their reinforcements and disrupt their logistics from within, it could give us a significant advantage." The room fell silent as his officers considered the proposal. Finally, Petrovic spoke up. "It's risky, but it might be our best option. If we can get eyes on their operations and disrupt their supply lines, we could cripple them before they even have a chance to retaliate." With a plan taking shape, Novak felt a renewed sense of purpose. They would strike at the heart of the Zorgan Empire once more, this time with stealth and precision. As preparations began for the infiltration mission, Novak gathered his strike team, a group of elite soldiers trained for covert operations. Among them was Lieutenant Zhang, who had proven herself invaluable during previous engagements. "Listen up," Novak said as they gathered in the briefing room aboard the Retribution. "Our objective is to infiltrate this supply depot undetected. We'll gather intelligence on Zorgan reinforcements and sabotage any resources we can find." Aang nodded, her expression resolute. "We'll be ready, Captain." The team launched from the Retribution under cloak, navigating through treacherous space toward their target, a heavily fortified Zorgan supply depot hidden within an asteroid field. As they approached undetected, tension filled the air. Each member understood the stakes involved. Once in position, They activated their cloaking devices and descended onto the surface of one of the asteroids near the depot. The facility loomed ahead, massive and foreboding, guarded by Zorgan sentries, unaware of the danger lurking just beyond their perimeter. "Stay low and move quickly," Novak instructed as they disembarked from their ship and began making their way toward the depot's entrance. The team moved like shadows through the darkness, silent and deadly, utilizing every ounce of training they had received. As they reached a maintenance hatch on the side of the depot, Zhang expertly bypassed security protocols with her technical skills. "Access granted," she whispered as the hatch slid open silently. Inside, they found themselves in a dimly lit corridor filled with machinery humming ominously around them. The air was thick with tension as they navigated deeper into enemy territory. "Let's split into 2 teams," Novak suggested quietly. "Zhang and I will head towards the control center, while the rest of you gather intel on supply routes." The teams nodded in agreement before separating into 2 groups, each tasked with critical objectives that could turn the tide in favor of humanity. As Novak and Zhang crept through winding corridors toward the control center, they encountered sporadic patrols of Zorgan soldiers. Each encounter was tense. They moved swiftly and silently, taking down guards without raising alarms. Finally reaching their destination, the control center, Novak's heart raced with anticipation as he prepared to gather vital information that could shift the balance of power in this war. Inside, rows of consoles displayed real-time data on Zorgan operations across multiple sectors. It was a treasure trove of intelligence waiting to be exploited. Zhang quickly set to work downloading data while Novak kept watch at the door, a sense of urgency gnawing at him as every second felt like an eternity. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared throughout the facility. Their presence had been detected. "Time's up," Novak shouted as he grabbed Zhang's arm and pulled her away from her console just as she finished downloading critical information onto a data chip. They sprinted back down corridors now filled with chaos, Zorgan soldiers rushing toward them in response to the alarm ringing through every corner of their stronghold. "Go! Go! Go!" Novak yelled as they raced toward an emergency exit leading back outside. Explosions rocked the facility as human reinforcements arrived just outside, their ships engaging in fierce combat against Zorgan defenders trying desperately to protect what remained of their operations. As Novak burst through an exit into open air, the sight before him was chaotic, a fierce battle raging between human forces and Zorgan warriors who fought tooth and nail for survival. "Get to our ship," he shouted at Zhang while covering her retreat with suppressive fire against pursuing enemies. They dashed toward their cloaked vessel amid chaos, dodging plasma fire while returning fire whenever possible until finally reaching safety. Once aboard, the team wasted no time activating engines. They were airborne just as another explosion rocked nearby asteroids, sending debris flying through space. "We did it," Zhang exclaimed breathlessly as they escaped into open space, the data chip containing invaluable intelligence clutched tightly in her hand. Back aboard HD's Retribution, Admiral Petrovic awaited anxiously for news from Novak's mission, and when he returned with vital information about Zorgan supply routes, the mood shifted dramatically. "We have everything we need," Novak reported excitedly as he handed over data chips filled with critical intel about enemy movements across multiple sectors. Petrovic's eyes sparkled with determination as she reviewed what had been collected. From troop movements to resource allocations, it was all there. "This changes everything," she said firmly, a fire igniting within her spirit. "We will launch an offensive targeting these supply lines immediately." With newfound resolve, the human dominion prepared for what would become one of its most decisive strikes against an enemy that had underestimated them time after time. As fleets mobilized, Zorgan forces scrambled desperately trying to regroup, but it was too late. The human dominion struck hard and fast, disrupting supply lines across multiple sectors while crippling any chance for retaliation. In those moments, The tide turned irrevocably against Emperor Karax, who watched helplessly from his flagship, the Z's Devastator, as his dreams crumbled around him. His forces were falling apart under relentless attacks from human ships. Each victory only fueled further determination among humans who refused to back down. "Gather our remaining forces," Karax roared furiously, his pride wounded beyond measure. "We will not let this stand. Prepare for one final assault." But deep down, even he knew it was too late. Humanity had proven itself time and again, a force that would not be easily broken nor defeated by mere arrogance alone. As battles raged across star systems, the human dominion emerged victorious time after time, each victory building upon another, until finally they stood poised at victory's doorstep. In a final confrontation between both empires, the stakes couldn't be higher. It would decide once and for all who would reign supreme across galaxies. With every ship mobilized, the final battle commenced, a clash that would echo throughout history, a testament not only to courage, but also sacrifice made by those who dared defy destiny itself. In those moments, the galaxy held its breath, as two empires collided amidst stars, a fight not just for survival, but for honor, for legacy, and ultimately, for existence itself. And so, the stage was set for an epic showdown where desperation met sacrifice, and only one side would emerge victorious.